I'm Stella and welcome to 30 Books. Now I'm here at the St Kilda Botanic Gardens, some people call it Botanical Gardens, and it is the day before what some people call Australia Day and what some people call Invasion Day. You choose what you would like to call it. And I've got two books today. I've got Kim Scott's Benang from the Heart, and also Welcome to Country, a travel guide to Indigenous Australia, and it's by Marcia Langton. Now I'm going to talk about Benang from the Heart first off. It's a signed copy, and I bought this copy 20 years ago and it has sat on my bookshelf for 20 years. I cannot tell you why I haven't read it, and I'm also one of these people that I get rid of books, and I kept promising myself I'm going to read this book and I'm going to read this book, and I finally have, and I wish I had have read it 20 years ago. Kim Scott is a Nyoongar writer from WA. He's an Aboriginal writer he writes a lot about the south or west of Western Australia, I come from WA. And this is the story of Harley, who he's an Aboriginal boy. His grandfather is white and his mother was Aboriginal, and he traces his family history. It's a lot about his grandfather, and there's a particular area just south of Perth where it's based, and there has been a massacre there years before, and it is really about the trauma and the ongoing colonisation of Australia. So Australia wasn't just colonised once, it's still happening and was happening then. And there's quite a bit about the chief Aboriginal protector of the time, Neville, and it's based on quite a number of letters as well. It is a phenomenal book, and I'm going to read a little bit from one of the reviews from the Sydney Morning Herald, and it says Benang is brilliant. It is a mature, complex, sweeping historical novel which will remind people of Rushdie, Carey and Grenville at their best, and it is also a page turner. The reason I wish I had read it sooner was that I thought I knew Western Australian history, but there's so much history that is left out of the history books, and reading this book makes you aware of how little you know. So this is Benang from the Heart by Kim Scott. He won the Miles Franklin Literary Award in 2000 for this book, which is rightly so. This copy was out by Fremantle Arts Centre Press. I'm not sure if it's still available or not, but and I'm sure people have read other Kim Scott books since then. This one is absolutely beautiful and wonderful, and I highly recommend this one. I can't tell you where I bought it. I think I bought it at the launch at the time here. There was a launch happening or a talk happening here in Melbourne. Now my second book is Welcome to Country by Marcia Langton. It's a travel guide to Indigenous Australia. Everything about this book is just breathtakingly beautiful, from the cover, even on the inside of the cover. Look, it matches my outfit today, and this beautiful, it's got a Welcome to Country forward by Stan Grant, and this is my country, welcome to country. And so everything about this book that Marcia Langton has written, it's about inviting people in to come and experience Indigenous Australia. And it's utterly charming and beautiful and detailed. And it's broken up into two sections. This is also a really great book for Australians as well. So it introduces Indigenous cultures. It talks about prehistory, languages, kinship, art. It talks a little bit about colonisation, storytelling, native titles, stolen generations. There's a section on what if your guide is not Indigenous, talks about NAIDOC Week, all the important events and dates that make up how the rich culture of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. The second part is how to explore Indigenous Australia, so it's got all the Australian states and territories in there, including the Torres Strait Islands. Now, Marcia Langton, for those people who don't know, she is really an authority. She's an Aboriginal woman and she is a PhD. I would call her a scholar. She's an activist and a historian as well, and she knows a lot about Aboriginal culture and Indigenous cultures in general. Let me take you inside the book for a second. We're at WA. So inside of WA, so they've got Exploring Indigenous Australia, and you go through national parks, including Karajini National Park. So within that, it talks about the Aboriginal cultural heritage of that national park. It talks about the natural features. It talks about bushwalking, what type of guided tours are available there with an Indigenous guide. One thing I thought sounded really interesting, it's the Brian Lee Hunter's Creek Tag-along tours. So it talks about that Brian Lee is a Bardi man from the Dampier Peninsula in the Kimberley region. His people have been a part of the land and sea for thousands of years. This is how exquisite her research has been, or the research has been in this book. On his half-day tour of around the turquoise waters of Hunters Creek, Brian shares his wisdom and experience as a traditional owner, teaching visitors about his country and culture and offering an insight into the lives of the Bardi people. How beautiful does that sound? Visitors also learn about the region's fascinating history, traditional bush tucker and traditional crabbing and fishing methods, and this was the best bit for me. The tour concludes with the traditional seafood lunch over an open fire with the catch of the day. And there it's got where, when, requirements, and some contact details. It's got costs in there and contact details. There's always a website. It is meticulous, this book. It is, and it's got some beautiful pictures inside as well, and at the back, and it's got a gorgeous section on Torres Strait Islands, and then at the back there's a wonderful index. So I bought my copy at the Paperback Bookshop in Melbourne for $39.99. Now that would mean that Marcia Langton would get about $4. Now what could $4 get you? Well, you could go down to one of the souvenir shops in Swanston Street and get yourself a little plastic Australia flag, but why would you want one of those? So I hope you've enjoyed 30 books this time around. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.